Boss humiliates employee for being a single mother, but after meeting her son, he regrets his actions and seeks forgiveness. The morning sun streamed through the tall office windows, casting warm light on the polished floors of the corporate building. Amara stepped inside, her heart heavy with the weight of her dual roles as a dedicated employee and a single mother. The familiar sounds of ringing phones and the soft hum of conversations filled the air, but Amara's mind was elsewhere. She thought of Elias, her young son, and the challenges they faced together. How could she stay focused on her work when her heart was torn between her job and her child? "Good morning, Amara," a colleague called out, snapping her back to reality. She forced a smile, but it did little to ease the unease swirling inside her. Today was a big day, a crucial meeting with Thomas, her boss. He was known for his sharp tongue and ruthless management style, and Amara couldn't shake the feeling that she was walking on thin ice. As the meeting began, the room buzzed with nervous energy. Thomas stood at the front, his presence commanding and intimidating. He launched into the agenda, but Amara's mind drifted as she thought of the lunch she promised Elias. Would he be okay at school today? Then it happened. In the middle of a tense moment, Thomas made a cruel joke. "And Amara, I hope you're not too busy being a single mom to focus on your work. We all know how that can go." The room erupted in nervous laughter, a sound that cut through Amara like a knife. Her cheeks flushed with humiliation, and she felt exposed, as if all her vulnerabilities were laid bare for everyone to see. "That's not funny, Thomas," someone mumbled, but the damage was done. Amara's heart sank. How could he laugh at her struggle? Did he not see the challenges she faced every day? The laughter faded, but Amara's internal battle only grew stronger. She wrestled with feelings of worthlessness, questioning whether she was enough for her job, enough for Elias. As the meeting wound down, Amara sat in silence, lost in her thoughts. The contrast between her life at home and the harshness of the office felt like a chasm she couldn't cross. She thought of Elias, of his bright smile and innocent laughter, and wondered how she could shield him from the world's cruelty. "How can I keep doing this?" she whispered to herself, the weight of her responsibilities pressing down on her. The team filed out of the conference room, but Amara lingered behind. She glanced at the empty chairs, each one a reminder of the expectations placed upon her. The office, once a place of pride, now felt suffocating. She clenched her fists, fighting back tears. "Amara, are you okay?" a colleague asked gently, noticing her silence. "Yeah, just thinking," she replied, forcing another smile that didn't reach her eyes. As she exited the room, Amara couldn't shake the feeling of isolation that crept over her. How could she stand against the tide of corporate expectations while balancing her life as a mother? Each step felt heavier than the last, a reminder of the dual lives she led. The sun shone brightly outside, but Amara felt a storm brewing within her. The laughter and chatter of her coworkers faded as she stepped into the bustling office, her mind racing with thoughts. Would she find a way to prove herself in this relentless environment, or would she continue to be just a joke for someone like Thomas? The questions echoed in her mind, urging her to find a way to rise above the pain, to reclaim her voice amidst the silence of judgment. In that moment, Amara realized that the battle was not just against Thomas, but against the doubt that threatened to consume her. She had to find strength, not just for herself, but for Elias, who deserved a mother who believed in her own worth. How could she transform this tension into something powerful? A spark of determination ignited within her, setting the stage for the challenges ahead. At home, Amara sat at the kitchen table, her laptop open in front of her, the blue light casting a soft glow in the dim room. It was late, and the sounds of the night surrounded her, the ticking of the clock and the occasional rustle of leaves outside. She tried to focus on the reports that needed her attention, but her thoughts drifted to Elias. In the next room, she could hear him softly sobbing. Her heart sank. She pushed her chair back and went to his room. Elias was curled up in a ball on his bed, his small body shaking with quiet cries. Amara sat beside him, rubbing his back gently. "Hey, buddy," she said softly. "What's wrong?" He looked up, his eyes wide and red. "They laughed at me today, Mom. They said I'm just the kid of a single mom." Amara felt a wave of sadness wash over her. She wished she could shield him from the harshness of the world. "I'm so sorry, Elias. Kids can be really mean sometimes. But you know what? You are so much more than that." Elias wiped his tears with the back of his hand. "But it's not fair. I just want to fit in." "I know, sweetie," Amara replied, pulling him into a hug. "It's tough, but you have a big heart, and that matters more than anything else. You're smart, talented, and you have a bright future ahead of you." His small arms wrapped around her. "Do you really think so?" "I know so," she said, her voice steady. "And no matter what anyone says, I will always be proud of you." Elias smiled weakly, comforted by his mother's words, but the weight of the day still hung heavy in the air. Amara stayed with him until he calmed down, her mind racing with worries. She thought of all the late nights spent working, the deadlines looming over her, and how she struggled to balance it all. As she tucked Elias into bed, she whispered, "You're going to do great things, Elias. Just keep being you." "Good night, Mom," he murmured, his eyelids fluttering as sleep began to take him. Amara returned to her workspace, the glow of the laptop now feeling more like a spotlight on her long list of tasks. She sighed, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. The tension from the office still lingered in her mind, especially Thomas's hurtful comment. "Why does he have to be so cruel?" she muttered to herself, frustration bubbling inside her. "Does he even understand what it's like?" She glanced at the clock. It was getting late, and she had a report to finish for the next day. But the thought of facing Thomas again made her stomach turn. She couldn't shake the feeling of inadequacy whenever he was around. As she worked, her thoughts turned to the future. What if I could find a different job, somewhere I could feel respected and valued? The idea seemed both exciting and terrifying. But how could I leave? This job pays the bills and Elias needs me. Amara paused, staring at the screen. What kind of mother am I if I can't even provide for my child? The question echoed in her mind, amplifying her sense of helplessness. She picked up her phone and scrolled through her contacts, her finger hovering over a friend's name who had offered her support in the past. Maybe I should talk to someone, she thought. Maybe they could help me see things differently. Just then, Elias called from his room. "Mom, can you come back, please?" Amara rushed back to him, her heart both heavy and hopeful. She sat at the edge of his bed, ready to listen to whatever he needed. "Can you tell me a story?" he asked, his voice small and tired. "Of course," she smiled, grateful for the distraction. "What kind of story do you want?" "About a brave knight who saves the day," he replied, his eyes sparkling with interest. "All right," Amara began, weaving a tale of courage and adventure. As she spoke, she felt the weight of her worries lift, if only for a moment. In that space, filled with the warmth of love and imagination, she realized that despite their struggles, she and Elias could face whatever challenges lay ahead, together. One sunny afternoon, as the workday came to a close, Amara stepped out of the office building, her mind still tangled in thoughts of deadlines and meetings. She took a deep breath, trying to shake off the weight of the day. As she walked toward the nearby park, she hoped to find a moment of peace before picking up Elias from school. Meanwhile, Thomas, her boss, was leaving the office as well. He had just finished a long meeting that did not go as planned. Frustrated, he decided to take a stroll through the park to clear his mind. Little did he know, fate had a different plan for him that day. As Thomas walked through the park, he noticed a small figure sitting on a bench. The boy was deeply focused on his drawings, surrounded by colorful crayons and sheets of paper. Thomas squinted, trying to see what the boy was creating. To his surprise, the boy looked up and smiled brightly. "Hi, what are you drawing?" Elias asked, his voice cheerful and innocent. Thomas hesitated for a moment. He was not used to being approached so freely, especially by a child. "Oh, just some, sketches," he replied, unsure of how to engage with the boy. Elias's eyes lit up. "Can I see?" Without waiting for an answer, he moved closer, his curiosity bubbling over. "I like drawing too. Look at this." He held up a picture of a giant dinosaur, its colors vibrant and alive. As Thomas looked at the drawing, he felt a strange warmth in his chest. "Wow, that's really cool. You have a great imagination." He found himself smiling, surprised at how natural it felt. Elias beamed with pride. "Thanks. I want to be an artist when I grow up. What do you do?" Thomas paused, feeling a sudden heaviness in the question. "I work in an office. I help run a company," he said, trying to keep it simple. "Do you draw?" Elias asked, tilting his head curiously. "Not really," Thomas admitted, feeling a bit embarrassed. "I mostly deal with numbers and meetings. It's not as fun as drawing." Elias nodded, his expression thoughtful. "You should try. Drawing is really fun. It makes me happy." Thomas watched the boy, noticing how easily Elias found joy in the simplest things. It was a stark contrast to the stress and pressure of the corporate world. "You're right," he said slowly. "Maybe I should give it a try." Elias smiled widely. "You should. Everyone should draw. It helps you feel better." In that moment, Thomas felt a shift within himself. He couldn't help but think about Amara and the struggles she faced as a single mother. He recalled the cruel joke he had made in the meeting, and guilt washed over him. Seeing Elias, so full of life and creativity, made him realize just how much he had overlooked in his treatment of Amara. "Do you like school?" Thomas asked, wanting to keep the conversation going. "It's okay," Elias replied, shrugging. "But some kids say mean things about me. They call me names because my mom is a single mom." The words struck Thomas like a bolt of lightning. He remembered the laughter that had echoed in the meeting room, the laughter at Amara's expense. "That's not fair," he said quietly. "Your mom is doing her best." Elias looked at him, surprised. "You know my mom?" "I work with her," Thomas explained, feeling a strange connection to the boy. "She's very strong. You should be proud of her." "I am," Elias declared, his eyes shining. "She works hard, and I love her." Thomas felt a lump form in his throat. In that moment, he understood. Amara was not just an employee, she was a warrior facing her battles every day. This boy, her son, deserved better from him. As they continued to talk, Thomas realized that this unexpected encounter was changing him. He could feel the seed of empathy taking root in his heart. Suddenly, he wanted to be someone who could support Amara, not tear her down. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the park, Thomas stood up. "I have to go now, but it was really nice talking to you, Elias. Keep drawing, okay?" "I will. Bye." Elias waved enthusiastically, his smile infectious. As Thomas walked away, he felt lighter. This brief interaction reminded him of the importance of kindness and understanding. He knew he had to make things right with Amara. It was time to change, not just for her, but for Elias and himself. After the unexpected encounter at the park, Thomas felt a weight pressing on his chest. He sat in his office, staring blankly at the computer screen, but his mind was far away. The laughter of Elias, the way the boy had shared his drawings without a hint of fear or doubt, echoed in his thoughts. He could not shake the image of Amara's face when he had made that cruel joke. Guilt swirled inside him like a storm. "What have I done?" he whispered to himself, rubbing his temples. He remembered the nervous laughter of his colleagues during the meeting, but now it felt hollow and cruel. He thought of Amara, her tired eyes, and the way she carried herself despite the burden of being a single mother. She was not just an employee, she was a fighter, facing battles he could not begin to understand. The clock ticked loudly in the silence of his office, reminding him that time was passing. He took a deep breath and made a decision. It was time to apologize to Amara. He grabbed a piece of paper and wrote down his thoughts, trying to find the right words. "Dear Amara," he began, but he crumpled the paper in frustration. Finding the right words felt impossible. He stood up, paced the room, and finally decided to approach her directly. As he walked to her desk, he felt a mix of anxiety and determination. Amara looked up, her expression shifting from focus to surprise as he approached. "Thomas," she said, her voice cautious. "Can we talk?" he asked, his heart racing. "About what?" she replied, crossing her arms defensively. "About what happened in the meeting," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I need to apologize. I was wrong to joke about your situation. It was thoughtless and hurtful." Amara's expression softened slightly, but skepticism flickered in her eyes. "You think a simple apology changes anything? I know it doesn't erase what I said," he admitted, feeling vulnerable. "But I want you to know I regret it. I didn't see you or what you face every day. I only saw the employee, not the person." Amara looked down, her fingers nervously tapping on her desk. "You don't know what it's like," she said quietly, "to juggle work and being a mother, to feel judged by people like you." "I know I can't understand fully," Thomas replied, his voice sincere. "But I want to try. I want to be better. I need to be better." The air was thick with tension as Amara searched his eyes for sincerity. "You've made it hard for me, Thomas. I've worked so hard, and yet I feel like I'm always fighting against you." "I see that now," he said, his voice low. "And I'm sorry for the pain I've caused. You deserve respect, not ridicule. I hope you can forgive me." Tears welled in Amara's eyes, but she blinked them away. "Forgiveness is not easy, you know. It takes time." "I understand," Thomas replied earnestly. "I don't expect it right away. I just want the chance to prove that I can change." Amara took a deep breath, her walls beginning to lower. "If you really mean that, then maybe we can start over. But it won't be easy." "I'm willing to try," he said, a hint of hope in his voice. "I want to support you, not bring you down." As they talked, Amara began to see the humanity in Thomas, the man behind the title. She noticed his nervousness, the way he shifted his eyes as he spoke. It was a small step, but a step nonetheless. "Okay," she said finally, her voice steadier. "Let's see where this goes. But remember, trust takes time." "Thank you, Amara," he replied, relief washing over him. "I won't let you down." As they parted ways, both Amara and Thomas felt lighter. There was still much to be done, but for the first time, they had opened a door to understanding. The road ahead was uncertain, but it was a road they were willing to walk together, step by step. As the days passed after their heartfelt conversation, a noticeable change began to unfold in the office. Thomas, now more aware of his past behavior, made a conscious effort to approach Amara with more kindness and respect. He started with small gestures, like greeting her with a warm smile each morning. "Good morning, Amara. How are you today?" he asked one morning, his tone genuine. Amara looked up from her desk, surprised. "I'm good. Thank you, Thomas. How about you?" "Better, thanks. I've been thinking a lot about our last talk," he replied, his expression softening. With each passing day, Amara felt a renewed sense of strength. The support from Thomas sparked something within her. She began to advocate for her ideas more confidently in meetings. One afternoon, as they discussed an upcoming project, Amara raised her hand to share her thoughts. "I think we should consider a different approach for the marketing strategy," she suggested, her voice steady. Thomas nodded, clearly interested. "I'd love to hear your ideas, Amara. What do you have in mind?" Encouraged by his interest, she elaborated. "I believe we should focus on social media engagement. Our target audience is active online, and we can create campaigns that resonate with them." As she spoke, Amara noticed her colleagues leaning in, listening intently. Their expressions shifted from indifference to curiosity. It felt good to be heard. "That's a fantastic idea," Thomas said, his approval evident. Let's develop this further. Can you lead a brainstorming session next week? Amara's heart raced with excitement. Absolutely, I'd love to. As the project plans took shape, the office atmosphere grew lighter. The team began to collaborate more openly, inspired by Amara's initiative. They shared laughter and ideas, breaking down the barriers that once existed. During lunch breaks, the chatter became more vibrant. Did you see Amara's presentation? One of her coworkers remarked. She really nailed it. Yeah, I think we're finally moving in the right direction, another replied, smiling. Amara felt a warmth spread through her as she overheard their praise. She had not only gained Thomas's respect, but also that of her peers. It was a strange and wonderful feeling, one she had longed for. One afternoon, Amara caught Thomas watching her with an approving gaze. "You're doing a great job," he said, breaking her concentration. "I can see the difference in your confidence." "Thank you, Thomas. Your support means a lot to me," she replied, feeling a mix of gratitude and surprise. Thomas smiled, a hint of relief in his eyes. "I'm glad to hear that. You deserve to be recognized for your hard work." As weeks turned into months, the relationship between Thomas and Amara evolved. They began to communicate more openly, sharing ideas and feedback without the tension that had once clouded their interactions. One day, Amara approached Thomas with a new proposal. "I think we should have a team building day. It could really help us bond and improve our communication," she suggested. "That sounds like a great idea," he agreed. "Let's set it up. I want everyone to feel valued and connected." With Thomas's backing, Amara organized the event. The day arrived, and the team gathered for games and activities that brought them closer together. Laughter echoed in the air as they participated in friendly competitions, breaking down the walls that had once separated them. Standing to the side, Thomas watched Amara engage with her coworkers, her smile infectious. It filled him with a sense of pride. He marveled at how far they had come since that awkward meeting when he had hurt her. Later, as the sun began to set, Thomas approached Amara. "You really brought everyone together today," he said, his voice sincere. "Thank you, Thomas. I think we all needed this," she replied, feeling a sense of accomplishment. "Let's keep this momentum going," he suggested. "I want to ensure our team feels supported and valued." Amara nodded, a smile playing on her lips. "I agree. Together, we can create a positive work environment." In that moment, the office began to transform. The echoes of silence were replaced with conversations filled with understanding and respect. Amara realized that change was not just possible, it was happening right before her eyes. The day of the company event arrived, and the atmosphere buzzed with excitement. Thomas stood at the entrance of the venue, scanning the crowd as he waited for Amara and Elias to arrive. He felt a mix of nerves and hope. This gathering was not just another corporate event, it was a chance to show his commitment to change. As the doors swung open, Amara walked in with Elias by her side. The bright lights illuminated their faces, and both mother and son looked around in awe. Thomas spotted them and stepped forward, a warm smile spreading across his face. "Amara, Elias, I'm so glad you made it," he called out, his voice steady despite the butterflies in his stomach. Amara offered a hesitant smile. "Thank you for inviting us, Thomas. It's quite a gathering you have here." Elias, clutching a small sketchbook, looked up at Thomas with wide eyes. "Is this where you work? It's so big." Thomas knelt down to meet Elias at eye level. "Yes, it is, and I'm glad you're here. What are you drawing?" Elias held up his sketchbook, revealing a colorful landscape filled with trees and a bright sun. "I drew a park. There are so many trees where I play." "That's amazing," Thomas said, genuinely impressed. "You have a great talent, Elias. Maybe you can show me more of your drawings later." "Okay," Elias beamed, his earlier shyness fading. Amara watched as her son's face lit up with excitement. She felt a sense of relief wash over her. Thomas was different now. The tension that had once filled their interactions was slowly being replaced by a sense of camaraderie. As the event continued, Thomas and Amara found a quiet corner away from the crowd. "I wanted to talk to you about everything," Thomas began, his tone serious but kind. "Thank you for coming today. It means a lot to me." Amara nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I appreciate the invitation, Thomas. It's nice to see a different side of you." "I've been reflecting on my actions," he admitted. "I realize now how my words affected you and Elias. I want to be better, not just as a boss, but as a person." She looked into his eyes, searching for sincerity. "It's a journey, Thomas. Change doesn't happen overnight." "I know," he replied, "but I'm committed to making things right. I want to create an environment where everyone feels valued and respected." Amara felt a sense of hope rising within her. That's important, especially for people like us. We need to feel safe and supported. Just then, Elias approached them, his sketchbook in hand. "Can I show you my other drawings?" he asked eagerly. "Of course." Thomas stood up, turning his attention to the boy. "Lead the way, Elias." The three of them walked over to a table filled with snacks and drinks. As Elias flipped through his sketchbook, Thomas listened intently, asking questions and encouraging the boy's creativity. "You know, Elias," Thomas said, "I wish I had your talent. Art is a powerful way to express ourselves." Elias grinned. "Thank you. I like drawing because it makes me happy. Do you like to draw?" "I do, but I'm not very good at it," Thomas admitted with a chuckle. "Maybe you can teach me one day." "I can teach you right now," Elias exclaimed, flipping to a blank page. "It's easy." Amara watched the two bond, her heart swelling with gratitude. She realized that this connection was more than just an apology. It was the beginning of a new understanding. As the event continued, laughter and chatter filled the air. The office, once a place of tension and isolation, now echoed with joy and camaraderie. Amara felt lighter, her burdens easing as she saw her son smiling and engaging with Thomas. In that moment, she understood the power of connection. It was not just about forgiveness, but about building relationships grounded in empathy and respect. The silence that once lingered in her heart was now replaced by a dialogue of understanding. As the evening drew to a close, Thomas turned to Amara. "Thank you for giving me a chance to be better," he said sincerely. Amara smiled, her heart full. "And thank you for seeing us, Thomas. It makes all the difference." Together, they stepped back into the lively atmosphere, ready to embrace the changes ahead, knowing that the journey had only just begun. Share this story if you believe that connection and understanding can transform even the toughest situations. Leave a comment about a time when a small act of kindness made a big difference in your life, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories like this one.